Let's continue the demo of the mass software and option G for reports. These reports have nothing to do with option F3 dues reports. They are in a separate category under dues. So these reports are reports other than dues reports. They pertain to attendance, current rank and test, and who is eligible to test, and so on. So let's take a look at them one by one. These first three options, attendance for last month, current month, and year to date, simply default to convenient dates. For example, today is July 31st, and if I pull up the last month's report, the default dates go to June 1 through June 30th. The current month defaults to July 1 through July 31. And the year to date defaults to the beginning of January through today. However, for any one of these options, you can overwrite the dates to pull off a report for that period. So for example, if I go with last month, if I change this to 1/1/20 through July 31/20, it shows you those dates right here, the ones you selected. And now you can go ahead with the report. It says, do you want to report for juniors or seniors or both? Juniors being below black belt, seniors being black belt and above. Different ranks on the black belt, like Shodan, Nidan, whatever. So we'll take the report for both. Ignore inactive records. Right now we'll say no. This is the default of yes. You have to put the report into a text file. I give the file a name, proceed. The report is in that file. Now, I take a look at that file under the word processor, and there it is. This is the time frame we selected, even though we went at option 1, current month. And we did say we want to include the inactives, note the plus sign. The report comes out in alphabetical order of last name, and for each person it tells you how many classes and how many hours he put in during that time frame. So for example, Mr. Andrews put in 22 classes and so many hours. The word classes refers to the number of days he came into class. So in that time frame he came 22 times to class. My record, in that time frame I came 29 times to the class and put in so many hours, and so on. So this can be word processed in any commercial word processor. Let's go back. Current month. Once again, it simply defaults to these dates. You can overwrite it with any dates you want. Let's say I want a report for all of 2019. So 1/1/2019 through 12/31/2019. Collecting data. Slightly more data, so it takes a bit longer, slightly longer. Let's go with both juniors and seniors and so on. The report is in the file. Let's word process it so we can check it out. And there it is. We selected this time frame. So once again, it's in alphabetical order, tells you who put in what time and so on. So for example, this gentleman came to class 38 times and put in so many hours. Let's exit from here. So these are your attendance reports for last month, current month, year to date, and it simply default to convenient dates. Now, if you have used any one of these options and you want to escape from this, so if you hit the escape key to back out, the system tells you after executing options G, 1, 2, or 3, the system will force a total exit. Please re-enter if you need to. So if you touch any key, it takes you right out. You can come back in again with just a couple of keystrokes and you're in. The reason I had to program these 3 reports to get you out of the system when you're done with them is because there is a bug in the system which I have not yet been able to resolve. And the bug is as follows. Option dues reports by themselves are very accurate. G reports, all of them by themselves are very accurate. If you go from the dues report to G, 1, 2, or 3, everything is accurate, or any of these. But the problem is if you pull off reports, one of these reports, and then go directly to the dues report, you will get invalid results for the dues reports. And I don't know why it's happening. I've been really agonizing over it. In any case, is very easily resolved by saying that if you use one of these options and then you escape, you'll go right out. The system lets you go right out. When you come back in again, you're all set. Everything is fine. So I'm going to leave it at that for now, the way it is. Let's look at the rest of the reports. Current rank and test status. A very quick summary of who's doing what. Once again, the report for both juniors and seniors. Summary report only. Between the difference between detail and summary is you just get one line of printout for each person. This is a default. We will ignore inactive records. You cannot have a rank and test status for someone who's inactive. It would not make any sense. So we will ignore inactives and go to our text file, creating the extract file, and the report is done. Let's check it out again. This is the rank and test status report people love. Now, there are only 3 records have kicked out. Keep in mind that because of the coronavirus crisis, everyone in our database is inactive. I gave myself a dummy date in July just to get myself active, and I gave Mr. Andrews a dummy date in July just to get him active. And then I put in a dummy record from scratch to get this person active, John Jones. This way we have 3 records to show, at least 3 in every report. So let's take a look at this. Mr. Andrews' record says that he is first queue obtained on this date, and since that date he has put in 103 hours towards his next rank. So this yes refers to the ETT, eligible to test. It says yes, he is eligible to test because he is ahead by 33 hours. In our option A parameters, we have said that going from first queue to showdown requires 70 hours of training. If you've already put in 103 hours, then you are ahead by 33 hours and therefore you are eligible to test. It doesn't mean that you will be called to test, but you are eligible to test. The same thing in my case. I'm eligible to test because I'm ahead by so many hours more than the required time frame. Based on our option A parameters, which, as a reminder, are just dummy entries, I put in hours of 10, 20, 30, and so on down the line. John Jones, he is an active student. He got this rank, his 5th Q rank, on 1:30:20, and since then he has put in so many hours. He is therefore not eligible to test. He is down by 28 hours. Note the minus sign over there. He is down by 28 hours because in our parameters we have said that going from 5th Q to 4th Q will take 30 hours of mat time. Since he only has 2 since his last rank, he is down by 28 and therefore not eligible to test. So that's a quick rank and test status report to tell you who stands where. Who's eligible to test now? All these are defaults. A quick and dirty picture of who's eligible to test, and not just a rank and test status where some folks may not be eligible to test. So essentially it's a subset. So Mr. Andrews and I are both eligible to test for the same reasons outlined before. Notice that John Jones's record hasn't shown up because he is not eligible to test at this time. So if you want a quick and dirty of who's eligible, this is the report to pick. Potentially inactive students for follow-up contact. This is a very useful feature. It'll tell you who is in danger of becoming inactive because they haven't shown up for a long time. In our option A parameters, we have said that if you don't come to class for 60 calendar days straight, you become ineligible. You become inactive. Let's take a look and see who will become inactive within the next, say, 15 days. No one. No one will become inactive within the next 15 days. Keep in mind, right now we have dummy data put out there. Let me take some more higher time frame. Who will become inactive in the next 50 days? The report has been printed, so someone becomes inactive in 50 days. Let's take a look at this. Yeah, Mr. Andrews and I will both become inactive in 50 days from today. Within 50 days of today's date, because, for example, Andrews last came in on this date, he will become inactive on this date, and here's some contact information for him. In my case, I gave myself the same dummy date to keep us active. I also came in on this date last, therefore I will become inactive on this date. So, clearly John Jones will not become inactive within the next 50 days from today because of whenever he came in last. So, in reality, I pull off this report for my dojo for 5, 10, 15 and 20 days and so on. And the advantage is, let's just look at that report again for a moment. Whoops. Okay. So in this report, these people will become inactive within so many days. Let's say you had pulled out this report for within 15 days. So now you know these people are going to become inactive. So you want to send them an email, somehow contact them to encourage them to come back onto the mat. So these are the email addresses for copy and paste. So you can send them a bulk email saying, hey guys, you will become inactive within so many days. We would encourage you to resume your martial arts training. So this is a very useful option to get people back on the mat, and we have ourselves used it to great advantage in the dojo. Contact data for active students. Juniors, seniors both report to a text file. You can put it to a screen if you want. And here's contact data for active students. In other words, for any one student, you can see the name, the email address, the home and cell phone numbers, and so on. The name and the last class. So this person last came on 7/25. His current rank is this 5th Q, and here's the contact information. And if you send this report to a file, you can then copy and paste the email addresses. So for example, contact data for active students, both, yes. Name the file, go ahead. Pull off the report, and there we are. And now, because this is a text file, you can copy and paste the email addresses and send them an email or whatever you want to contact them for. Contact data for recently inactive students. Recently inactive. Again, in our parameters, we said that if you don't show up for 60 days, you are inactive. So you want to encourage the recently inactive students back on the mat. Although they are inactive, if they are not too far gone for a year or so, you might have a chance of bringing them back in. And here too, we have had some success. So pull off students where the last date of attendance is between 60 and let's say 75 days prior to today. This 60 is picked up, let me escape from here for a moment, from option A, parameters. It says over here the student becomes inactive after 60 days. You can put any date, number of days you want, and that is what comes into this report here. So we want to pull off students where the last date of attendance is between 60 and say 75 days prior to today. Before you go into a text file, let's just pull it to the screen, see who kicks out. Nobody. Nobody was recently inactive between 60 and 75 days. They are so far inactive because of the coronavirus that we'll have to take a longer time frame. Let's go between 60 and 100 days. Nobody. 125 days, 60 and 125 days. One person kicks off. So let's go maybe 150 days. Go into a text file this time. Report has been printed. This is our title, because these are the parameters we selected between 60 and 150 days. And so these are the names, they come out in alphabetical order of last name. So for example, this person, he is 3rd Q, he last came to class on this date. He has been inactive for 141 days now, and that's his email address. If you want to contact him individually, you have the email address, you can copy and paste, or if you want to contact them all in one bulk email, copy and paste the email addresses and you're all set. In reality, of course, we go full of students recently inactive between 60 and 70, 75 days and so on. If you go too far back, there is no way they're going to come in. So although you can say 999 days, someone who last attended on this date is not likely to come in. In fact, we have records going back a long time. Okay, so there you have it. Current data were recently inactive. Okay, who joined as of? I use this merely as a memory jogger for someone's name. If I see a familiar face but can't quite get the name, I just put in a dummy date like who joined as of 1/1/2020, and these are the people who came on board as of 1/1/2020, and I use this merely as a memory jogger for their name. It's here if you want to use it, if you think it's useful. And at this point, that's it for reports.